All right, so I think I'll get started. If anybody comes by, just feel free to let me know. So hey everybody, Blood and Bobby here. So if you tuned in yesterday, you might have known that I already did a review of Infinity Train Book 3, Episodes 6 through 10, and it's like, why am I doing this again today? Like, isn't this kind of the show that's been sort of torturing me for the last, 8 months? Well, I wanted to do it again because even though the review did go really well yesterday, and I'm glad I didn't, freak out, looking back. I mean, to be fair, episodes 6 through 10 and they are good episodes, and I'm going to be talking about them. But the reason I'm doing this again is because because this is the first time I'm doing a stream in 1080p. Thank you, M1 MacBook Pro. I actually I thought I had to use a different stream key, and I got them mixed up, and I basically accidentally launched two separate live streams. And so yeah, I noticed when I finished the first stream yesterday, I noticed that YouTube said that I was doing a second stream, and I'm like, what's going on? And I see that, oh no, it started a second stream, and therefore everybody who was in the chat went to that second stream instead. So yeah, it's because I missed out on that, and also because I was hoping for more turnout. That's why I decided to do a second one today, and also because I'm not really doing, and I don't have much planned ahead. I'm basically looking forward to checking out Book 4, which I watched both the trailer for Book 4. Yeah, here's what I did. So last season, I basically went in without watching any of the trailers this season. I decided to watch both the trailer and the clip, and I think the lead characters in the new season are pretty interesting, but we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about Book 3. So I'm going to discuss episodes 6 through 10, and there are going to be major spoilers up ahead. So if you haven't seen Book 3 yet, I highly recommend that you do, because I'm pretty sure when season 4 or book 4 starts up, you're going to find lots of spoilers on social media. So I highly recommend. It is a pretty rough season to get through. It's easily it has the most guts, and it's one of the darkest things I've had to review. I'm gonna let this helicopter pass by here. And the reason it took as long as it did, honestly, was because I was just kind of freaked out. It honestly just kind of sent me into a paranoid state where I'm like, oh shit, does this mean that I don't know what just came of me. I just had this fear that everybody in the cartoon community was gonna start acting like Grace and Simon and that kind of thing, despite the whole hashtag fuck Simon kind of bit of a social media movement going on. But yeah, but I am really glad that I did finally get to see episodes 6 through 10. I think part of it was because the crazy shit was already told. I just couldn't avoid it. I already knew about things like spoilers when Simon is just completely covered by numbers, which I'll get into that later on in this stream. But anyway, let's get into episodes 6 through 10. And if you're currently watching this and would like to give me your thoughts on the episodes, feel free to do so in the chat. Hopefully this time things will go well and it won't get all trippy like last time. So we'll start off by talking about the campfire card. This is literally the episode that takes place right after Simon killed Tuba, and now Hazel is distraught and crying and I would even say just as horrified as I was. I mean, I was kind of surprised how her reactions and how she was dealing was very similar to how I reacted to the episode. She was even telling Grace, "Hey, we could go down there and save Tuba. Let's go down there and save Tuba." And Grace, it has to break the bad news of the situation that no, Tuba is dead, literally thrown off the car and wheeled. And so, and then Hazel becomes concerned that Simon's gonna kill her next, because because she turns into a turtle when she gets really emotional, she's concerned that Simon's going to kill her next. And those are like my two instant reactions basically when I got done watching the episode where Tuba was killed off. And so, but the thing about this episode is it's pretty much. Hopefully that helicopter doesn't become too intrusive in this stream. But it's basically an episode where Hazel is coping with the death of Tuba. We see that they go into this car called the campfire car, which is like this forest kind of place, and a lot of the characters are like objects you would see in a campfire. And we see that Hazel is looking around trying to see if there is a place where she could put this glowing gem or stone or something as a way to give Tuba a sort of funeral. And of course Simon, because he's a piece of shit, is like, completely like shows absolutely no remorse and is like, come on, let's just get to the next car and all that. But Grace decides to go off with Hazel in order to find a good spot, which becomes this tree. And I like the funeral scene. It's very sweet. It's a nice send off. And I think it's, this great sweet moment is a really great contrast or juxtaposition compared to the really intense death scene that was Tuba's murder. And we even get an even deeper sense. I would say that up until this point, we've had glimpses into Grace's softer side, her more like caring side, and then this episode just goes all in, from how she teaches Hazel how to control like her emotions so that she doesn't turn into a turtle and makes Simon want to kill her. And we see that even Grace, like, even though she didn't really know Tuba nearly as well as Hazel did, and we even see that she starts to tear up. So we start to get, glimpses of the softer sides of her personality, if you will, especially because up until this point, what's funny is that, and probably one of the lessons I learned from watching the first 5 episodes of the season was that I really should have given the lead characters much more of a chance, because after all, the reason they're on the Infinity Train is because they have a personal problem that they have to solve, because admittedly, I think I just kind of got caught up in how some critics out there like get really annoyed at certain characters, when really the most objective route to do, especially in a show like Infinity Train, is to ask the question, why does this character act this way? Not just say straight up, oh, I fucking hate this character and la da 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 and that kind of thing. But it is like interesting how we're starting to get like a much better sense of who Grace really is. And so after the funeral scene, they go off to the next car, and I was a little surprised by this. We actually see that the character Amelia, who is basically the villain from the first season, comes back, which leads us to the next episode, the Canyon of the Golden Winged Snakes car. Or so. Again, anybody else watching, if you'd like to give your thoughts on the episodes, you could let me know in the chat. What was I gonna say? So next episode is basically where we see the return of Amelia, and Simon goes off to figure out what's going on with Grace's number. And so in this episode, we actually see like some like shattering of the truths, or I should say beliefs, that Simon and Grace have had, particularly Simon, because like when he's all like, oh, the conductor is evil and trying to kill us, Amelia just kind of laughs off, and we start to see that kind of like shattering of like what he really believes in. And Amelia adds to the mystery behind Hazel. So up until now, we see that we're not really sure who Hazel really is, because Hazel has a number on her hand, but it's not like a glowing number per se. I actually thought it was like, oh, she must have like, drawn it with like a marker or something like that. But we'll basically figure out what happens with Hazel later on, and Grace and Simon are basically, I guess you could say, conflicted on trusting Amelia. Like, Simon in particular, I recall, was pretty interested in, like, maybe talking to Amelia more, because he was thinking, well, if Amelia is, like, all covered with numbers, maybe she could help figure out what's going on with Grace's number. But I think because Grace knew that if Simon made the connection with the turtles, he'll figure out that Hazel can turn into a turtle, and so she tries to spin it by saying, "Do you remember one of the rules of the Apex? Don't trust adult passengers." And so they run off to a cave, and Simon actually goes back to the train with the cat to figure out what in the heck is going on. And I was actually a little surprised that we finally get to know the cat's name after all this time. Samantha is the name of the cat, although in the stream yesterday, I pointed out maybe it's because in the case of the prior seasons with characters like Jesse, Lake, and Tulip, because they're new passengers, they wouldn't know the cat's name, whereas Simon has been on this train for years, and at one point, Samantha was his companion, but so it would make sense that he would know her name. And so, and the other revelation we got in that episode was Samantha clarifies it wasn't that she left Simon for dead. She was basically running for her life, but didn't come back to save Simon, which I think is what would explain a lot of of Simon's actions in terms of why he's very why he doesn't trust the kind of characters that he refers to as gnolls and that sort of thing. And we see that Samantha gives Simon this projector device that will come in handy in the later episodes. Funny enough, what was I gonna say? Throughout this whole throughout the next few episodes, I had was wondering about two things. I was wondering, the first one is Simon going to find out that Hazel is what he would consider a gnoll and try to kill her, God forbid? And the second one is, what causes him to get all the numbers all over his body. And so I was thinking maybe the projector had something to do with that, and it does have something to do with him finding out something about between Hazel and Grace, but we'll get to that later on. And so so it definitely has some nice build up and a couple of interesting discoveries. And so actually, before I go on to the next episode, I think I need to take a bit of a restroom break. So if anybody else is watching and you would like to give your 2 cents on the episodes I've talked about so far, which are the Canyon of the Golden Winged Snakes car and the Campfire car, you could let me know in the chat. So when I get back from the restroom, I'll continue on. So so I'll be back in a second. Okay, I'm back. So, just checking in on things before I move on to the next episode. Alright, so continuing on again, if anybody else is joining the stream or you're watching this in the future, you could let me know either in the chat, the stream is still live, how you feel about the episodes, or really just the Infinity Train episodes in general, or your thoughts on book 4 in terms of, like, you know, the lead up to it. And yeah, so let's go on to the next episode, which is the Hey Ho Whoa Car, which I kind of like how a lot of the titles of the Infinity Train episodes mostly focus on the name of the cars rather than dropping major hints about what's going to happen in the episodes. I'm assuming they don't get too descriptive because they don't want to get like super spoilery and all that. So yeah, but I thought it was kind of interesting how the reason it's called the Hey Oh Whoa Car is because there's this chasm in the car where these rocks drop and they're like talking rocks and they just go hey ho whoa and they fall. And basically the idea is that Amelia, Simon, Grace, and Hazel have to wait for like the chasm to fill up with these rocks in order for them to get to the next door. And we see that in this episode. Admittedly, I had a bit of a time trying to like follow along with like what Amelia has been planning this whole time. Basically, her return in the episode in this season is because now that, you know, she's trying to make up for the things she did in book 1. Even like Samantha the cat was like very like hostile when she heard that Simon had bumped into Amelia. We see that basically she's trying to like make up for her mistakes and that sort of thing, and that's why she's going around checking in on all the different cars. And so yeah, we see. So what exactly did Amelia say? Like she basically, like, you know, recaps, like, you know, the things she did in the first season, saying the reason she took control of the train and was the false conductor for a while was because she didn't like how one ran things. And Amelia, and yeah, so and one is quarantining the cars that she didn't make and that sort of thing. So yeah, and so basically we get to see more of the shattering of the beliefs that like Simon and Grace always held. Like up to this point, they're still convinced that, oh, the number on like your arm and hand is supposed to keep going up, and Amelia says that, you know, no, it's not supposed to be like that, and gets in a bit of a confrontation with Simon, saying, you know, you don't want to accept the fact that you may be wrong for once. And Simon is like saying, no, she's just brainwashing us and that sort of thing. And when he tries to fight Amelia, which doesn't work because Amelia has this really great like, you know, force field, if you will, that protects her whenever Simon tries to attack her, we see that actually triggers like Hazel's transformation into a turtle. And Simon discovers that, Hazel can really turn into a turtle. And Amelia puts two and two together and figures out that Hazel is a result of the experiment that she tried to do in order to recreate her husband. And so we see that instead of Simon deciding to kill Hazel or that sort of thing, he tells Grace, "Hey, let's get out of this car right now," and just leave Hazel with Amelia. And it puts Grace into a really like sort of uncomfortable decision because, you know, we could see that, you know, she still really wants to care for Hazel, and it just gets too much. And it even gets to a point where she inadvertently calls Hazel a like null out of anger, which I'd say would play a part later on down in the season. And so Grace proposes camping out, and which gives Simon an opportunity to test out this projector device, which one of the really creative designs of the episode, I would say, is I kind of like how in order for Simon to see Grace's memories, he has to put these like sort of beads in Grace's hair, which causes this like film to come out, like kind of like a film in a VHS tape, and it runs through the projector, and we see the really big reveal. Once again, I said that I was going to be talking about spoilers in this discussion, where Simon finds out that Grace knew for a while, like basically since Tuba's death, that Grace knew that that Hazel can turn into a turtle. So yeah, don't mind just double checking some things. And oh, okay, yeah, that's good. So yeah, I'm just double checking to see if like the live chat is acting up, because I do not want a repeat of what happened yesterday. So moving on to the next episode, which is the Origami Car, which actually, I have to say, my favorite Infinity Train episodes tend to be the ones where we get the backstory in terms of figuring out why the character ended up on the train in the first place. And in this case, we get that especially with Grace, because up until like now, we know that Grace has hinted that you know, one of the troubling times in her life was like something to do about like her dance classes, and so we finally get that reveal in the episode. But first, what I certainly didn't expect is that we see that Hazel decides to leave Grace and Simon on her own terms, and it's because she thinks that that even though they seem to come off as like really strong people, they're not exactly as strong as they seem. And so, and it of course, you know, breaks Grace up, and Simon could care less, and they go off to the next car where Simon steps on Origami and points the projector at Grace's head again, and we get what basically I've been waiting for ever since the beginning of the season, and that is we get to see what happened all those years ago when Grace was in that dance class. So we see that there was a recital and her parents didn't show up. So basically we find out that Grace was actually quite a lonely person. We see that she, you know, her parents didn't come to her dance recital. Oh, and we see that they weren't exactly the kindest to her. She would like take out her anger on her classmates, and also, there was a scene where she attempted to steal a bracelet from a store, and her parents, you know, were like, you know, there's no way our daughter could do this. And Grace said that she did that so that, you know, she would be noticed, and that's what led her to go on the Infinity Train. And so in a way, it's kind of similar to the episode back in season 1 with Tulip, when we see, you know, what exactly happened when Tulip's parents got divorced. But not only that, we also see how exactly she and Simon met. So back when they were still kids, and we discover that basically all along that Grace has been lying to, you know, everybody, Simon included, even from like from the first time they met. We see that like Simon is like, whoa, how come your number is like so much higher? And Grace tricks him into thinking that, you know, oh, that, you know, a higher number is good. And so it actually, it could be a case, at least the way I took it, that the reason she said that is because, as Simon points out, the train gave her a chance for her to be, you know, to finally be in a place where she's respected. And so that would probably explain why both characters are as rebellious and as destructive as they are, or in the beginning, and so forth. And so, but since, Grace, you know, but since, you know, because Simon can't forgive Grace for the lies that she's been telling him, Simon accuses her of lying to the Apex. And all these visions don't end there. They continue on in the later episode, in the last episode, in fact, of the season, which is the new Apex. And this is basically the episode where Grace admits to all the wrongdoing she's done, especially when it comes to, like, you know, the lies and her manipulations. We see that in her visions. She sees that Hazel accuses Grace of, like, trying to control her and controlling the Apex and being in a way responsible for Tuba's death. Even going, like, you know, the vision of Hazel even goes as far as to say that you killed Tuba and so forth. And you know, leads up to that scene where Grace is starting to become, like, covered in static, and basically, like, I guess you could say her inner self, like, comes out and says, you know, you knew all along about the lies and so forth. And Grace admits the reason he's been like that for so long is because it was basically to you know, hide her insecurities. Like, you know, she didn't like feeling wrong, and she was, you know, concerned with not feeling like she's enough and so forth. So, you know, we see that, you know, it's basically episode where she owns up to her mistakes, and which leads to the last confrontation scene of the episode, where Simon convinces the Apex kids that you know, he tries to convince them to try to kill off Grace in a similar way that he did to Tuba. And Grace turns it around and says, you know, and asks the kids, you know, hey, did Simon tell you about meeting with Amelia? And also she tells him the reason she hasn't, you know, been the most honest about Hazel, and why she didn't, like, straight up say that, you know, oh, Hazel was, you know, a turtle all along, is because she was trying to protect Hazel, which leads to this big, like, fight scene with punches and kicks. And I think what says a lot about both Grace and Simon is that the scene where there's a scene where one of the Goms, like one of those cockroach creatures, like, cuts in, like, you know, jumps in and, like, you know, on their fight. Grace actually saves Simon from the monster, but despite that, he still, like, kicks Grace off the train. Now, unlike what happened with Tuba, Grace is saved by these origami birds that saved her in that she helped fix up earlier in the episode. And yeah, and that's what causes Simon to get all the numbers. Like, right after he kicks Grace off the bridge, he becomes completely, like, covered in numbers. Which, by the way, when he's covered in numbers, the first time I saw him like that, first of all, couldn't avoid spoilers. So the first time I saw, like, a picture of what he looked like with all the numbers, I remember seeing that on Instagram, and the post on the bottom, it said, so that's why this episode, the Infinity Train, got moved from Cartoon Network to HBO Max, which, I mean, I don't know the specific reason for myself, but I wouldn't be surprised if that scene, and also the scene with Tuba's death, because that was really intense. Like, you know, if it was still airing on Cartoon Network, I probably would have been like, you know, I don't know if I would show this, per se. Because even though, I mean, obviously, well, I mean, granted, it wasn't shown in, like, the most grisly way, but still really intense. Like, you know, I would be really concerned about showing that scene to, like, a younger reviewer, like a kid. But anyway, yeah, but I remember when I first saw, like, him covered with the numbers, I was honestly, like, almost as disturbed as when I first saw Brundlefly in David Cronenberg's remake of The Fly. Like, I mean, okay, not that, like, level of, like, disturbing. Brundlefly is so much creepier, but still, it's, like, a really, you know, eerie design and so forth. But anyway, I was thinking maybe that, you know, the numbers were a result of him killing Tuba, but that's not the case. And I was also thinking maybe when he gets covered in numbers, that's what's going to cause him to get, like, disintegrated. Because I saw, like, an image of him, like, getting disintegrated with, like, the skeleton. But what happens is the the cockroach creature comes down on Simon and disintegrates him down to his flesh and skeleton and all that. So still really intense death scene, if you ask me. But yeah, that's how he's defeated. Grace goes off and tells the Apex that it's not going to be up. She was also saying this to Simon, that it's not going to be up to her to fix all of the kids' problems, because she even admits, and I like this note too, she even admits herself that she doesn't have things figured out completely, so she wouldn't be able to solve all the problems for the Apex kids, and so she disbands the Apex, and through all this, we see that the numbers on the kids' hands start to go down themselves, and that sort of thing. So the season actually doesn't end off with the lead characters getting off the train. It's kind of left open to interpretation. I'm even wondering if it could be possible if the Apex kids would show up later in like season 4 or something like that, but I guess we'll have to see when season 4, the final Infinity Train season, gets released on Thursday. Which, by the way, I'm going to be taking a bit of a social media break tomorrow in order to avoid the spoilers, because I'm not exactly sure when the season 4 episodes will come out per se. I'm kind of wondering, and don't quote me on this because I don't know for sure, if they might release it like 9 p.m. Pacific time, because that'll be like midnight on the East Coast, but I'm not exactly sure. But we'll, see how it goes. I'll basically, I do want to watch the episodes when I can. I want to get into the habit of watching them much closer to when they came out, since season 4 is literally a day away. I figured that this would be a really good time for me to finally finish up reviewing the season 3 episodes. But ultimately, I am glad that I did finish the season and get to see how the story unfolded, rather than just leaving it in the dead zone of the unknown, if you will. So, yeah, so I would say in the end, book 3 is a good season. It's kind of a toss-up to me. I'm not really sure if I'd say if it's better than the first season. It definitely has like more guts than the first season, but I kind of go back and forth between this season and the very first one where we got to see Tulip for the first time. Season 2, I don't think it's as cringy as some people think it is. I still think there are still some really good things about it. I like the idea of, even though there was Jessie, it focused on a character who didn't necessarily have the number, and she was trying to figure out how to get off the train. So I thought that was a unique perspective, and I like that. And so, yeah, so ultimately I did enjoy the season. I mean, it's still pretty intense. I wouldn't show it to younger viewers per se, because, the scene where Simon kills Tuba, it honestly stayed with me for a really, disturbing amount of time. I know it's just the show, and I have this, really bad habit of, really taking it pretty hard. I mean, it was even to a point where I couldn't stop thinking about that scene, even when I was, going to my day job, but basically I guess I have to hand it to the season for helping me figure out ways to sort of deal with it, because I always feel like I'm one of a very few that has this particular problem, and so I've been spending the last sort of 8 months figuring out how should I approach cartoons, if you will, because it even got to a point where I was even thinking, I'm not even sure if I should be doing these reviews. But then I reminded myself that the reason I put myself through this is because I want to have just as much fun as the fans on social media, if you will. Again, I don't know if I would show a younger person, like a kid, because I think a younger me would probably run away from the TV screen and go hide in the bathroom if I saw the Tuba's death scene. I mean, although objectively I still enjoyed this season, but yeah, but it's still a journey that I'm still trying to figure out. Because I was even sort of saying that was when I talked about a certain death scene really kind of broke me when I did my 2021 video talking about what I was going to do this year. That was the death scene I was referring to. So, yeah. But overall, still enjoyed the season. I did, again, as I said in the beginning of the stream, I watched both the trailer and the clip for book 4, and I really liked both. I had a really good impression of the two lead characters, so I'm really curious to see where their adventure will go. I'm kind of wondering if there's going to be another really like crazy like death scene in book 4. Just kind of just yeah, because like I'm thinking there was a really crazy one in season 2 and a couple crazy ones in book 3, which would led to that hashtag fuck Simon. So I'm wondering if there's going to be something like that this time. So I'll keep the stream going for maybe another 10 more minutes in case anybody else comes by. Yep. So again, giving the stream 8 more minutes in case anybody else comes by. Might even go until like 6:30, depending if I feel like it. Basically. So yeah, so I think this time I'm gonna go for maybe 8 more minutes in case anybody else comes by. Four more minutes in case I get any more people in the chat. I guess so. If you're watching this in the future and would like to leave your thoughts on the Infinity Train episodes, feel free to do so in the comment section. Um, the reason I do these, especially when it comes to TV shows, I like to do them live because one is that so that I don't have to constantly. I'll actually get the camera I use to record videos out, so I don't have to constantly push record every single time I talk about a new episode. And the other reason is because I really enjoy the interaction. So if you're watching this from the future, you can let me know. I mean, don't get spoilery. If you're watching this after book 4 drops, don't get super spoilery because I'm not sure where I'll be by the time you see this review. But yeah, anything from seasons 1, 2, 3, or any predictions for book 4, I welcome in the comments, or if you're currently watching this in the chat. Alright, so last minute here. I think I'll do one last check of the chat in case anybody has come. All right, so I'll end things off here. For those who tuned into the review, thank you for watching and listening to my discussion. I know it took me a while to finally finish these episodes, but I'm glad I rose up to the challenge and did, and get to see the pretty good conclusion that was the last 5 episodes of Infinity Train Book 3. Like I said, I am looking forward to the 4th season. I'm going to be really interesting to see where the characters go from there, and see how this series will end. As far as my thoughts on book 4 being the last, I welcome it if it gives Owen Dennis the opportunity to go into different avenues. I really think even more than JG can tell, his work could really benefit I'm not sure what he's doing next, but if he were to go into the adult animation field like what JG Cantell did when he went from regular show to close enough, I think there's even more possibility for Owen Dennis because of like the topics, especially the kinds of topics that Infinity Train covers and the kind of action scenes. I could only imagine the possibilities if he's given even if he could do a show where he's allowed to do even more than what he currently does with the current Infinity Train series. But we'll have to see how that goes. So if you're watching this in the future, you could let me know your thoughts on Infinity Train books 1, 2, and 3 down below in the comments. If you're watching this before book 4 comes out, you could let me know your predictions, but don't get too spoilery if you're watching this after the season's released. I'll do another stream talking about my thoughts on book 4 in the future. So until next time, this has been Blood Moon Bobby, and thank you all for watching.